Mr. Gurumurthy, President of Codissia, my friend and Professor Codissia, from whom I have learned quite a lot about not only this area and its impulses, but also generally about the way the communities function. That has been a very revealing kind of study. And Ikoka Subramaniam, in fact, he is one of the persons who is propping up Professor Codissia because he is basically an academic. He has been pushed into public arena by Mr. Subramaniam. I hope that his entry into political life will bring about a lot of differences to this area, and I pray God that all of you and I must not fail to mention two more persons, Mr. A.V. Varadarajan and Mr. Jagannathan, who unveiled before me the work they had done, which impressed me so much that I went and told the Prime Minister of India at that time that we are going to organize a Swadeshi industrial fair in a small-scale industrial complex. He said, in a small-scale industrial complex, if you organize a fair, how small it will be? I said, you have not seen the complex, which even the large industries have not been able to set up. I want you to come and see. Then he said there should be no other program. So he came and stayed there for the whole day. It was a very inspiring example of a Prime Minister devoting his whole time in a fair organized in a small-scale industries, industrial park. Now, coming to what Professor Codissia said, and continuing from there, you know, we were all trained in the English model of education to look at India in the way the Englishmen wanted us to look at for 100 years, and we continue to look at it that way. And I have also been a victim of this approach. I have been a corporate advisor, being a chartered accountant, and in a way, sought after chartered accountant at the highest levels of Indian business. I also felt that the Western model is inevitable, even though there is a lot of conflict between the Western way of thinking, its philosophy, its approach, its society, and its beliefs, and the way we are organized. It's a huge contradiction, but still, the Western model is inevitable. So I have been part of this whole approach. When I used to advise my clients in 1980s, my advice would be based on this. But when the globalization process took over, then it hit us like an unbelievable tsunami. It was a huge power. We shook all. Some of the big industrial minds and industrial houses with whom I had discussions, they said, we don't know what kind of animal it is, how to handle it, we don't know. And nor the system had any clue about how to handle it. You talk to the Reserve Bank governor, or you talk to, I'm not talking about the present ones, I'm talking about the past, or the finance secretary or economic advisor, they will all give the solutions which are made somewhere else, which had nothing to do with India, which had no basic understanding of what India is, what Indians are, what their potentialities are, what their relationships are. So I thought something seriously wrong is happening. And if we go this way, it can lead us into chaos because we are not a small country. And we were all citing countries like Singapore, Hong Kong, Korea, Taiwan. You know, these are all countries which are smaller than Tamil Nadu. And we are holding out these as examples for 1/6 of humanity, which had 5,000 years, 10,000 years of a particular way of life. We are hooked to our own prejudices, our own traditions, our own superstitions. And we are not going to give up superstition very easily. You must understand, all of us are great intellectuals and educated people and all that. But how many of you will breach Rahu column? Tell me. 99.9% of Indians believe in God, according to India Today study, but 100% believe in astrology. So in this society, you cannot have a building construction plan without looking into Vastu Purushan when he will get up. He will get up only twice a year. Your entire real estate will depend upon Vastu Purushan and not on stock market, not on whether there is any demand for houses. Let us see afterwards, but the construction will have to commence on the day on which the Vastu Purushan turns from one side and he is always sleeping. You know, these are all, the myths make the society. And there is no use denying it. We must live by it. We must understand it. Chinese do, Japanese do, Koreans do, Taiwanese do. But we want to move, we keep all this private and begin to pose as if we don't believe in all this. You know, this is the kind of course, this is one westernization. There are political parties which do it in Tamil Nadu. They believe in everything but deny it outside, even abuse it outside. So I found that there is something intellectually wrong with us. There is a catch. So I didn't know what to do. So I had a long discussion with one Gandhian by name Dharampal. And he has been educating me from 1980s, particularly from 1981. When he said that there is something very different that India is, which the Western mind cannot grasp, which the people who are trained in the Western mode of thinking, Western education, Western approaches, Western models, they cannot understand. We have to study it. Unless you catch this, you will not be able to offer solutions for India. This he always kept saying. I always felt, you know, these Gandhians talk in a particular way, and they are hooked to Gandhi, and they are hooked to Khadi, and they are hooked to Charkha, and they do not know about mechanization. They hate electricity. You know, this was the conflict. But I used to love that man so deeply because of only one thing. In the year 1931, if I remember right, Mahatma Gandhi went to London for the Round Table Conference, in which, as he landed, he made a statement that when the British came, India was far more literate than England. And now, we are far more illiterate than you. This is the statement Mahatma Gandhi made. Then the Britishers asked him, what is the evidence? He said, I cannot give you evidence. Truth doesn't require evidence. The entire media criticized Mahatma Gandhi as an idiot. That a man makes a statement, he cannot prove it. After Mahatma Gandhi died, in the year 1957, Dharampal took this study. He said Gandhi could never have uttered a lie. He must have told only the truth. 10 years he worked in the archives of London, in Germany, in France, and he collected all the materials and wrote a book by name The Learning Tree. You must read that book, it is available online, where he proved that in the 18th century, India had a much higher standard of education, much higher literacy rate than England was at that time. They had only Sunday schools and also schools which will teach only Bible. In fact, arithmetics were forbidden. Only in elite schools they used to teach mathematics. He proved Gandhi was right almost 15 years after Gandhi passed away. That is the respect I had for the man, that this man had something in him. So he told me, you are not going to understand India unless you are going to travel across India, like Mahatma Gandhi did. Mahatma Gandhi came to India 15-20 years after he had left India. And when he came back, he wanted to know, he had planned in South Africa itself that he has to work for the freedom of India. But the freedom of India cannot be worked unless you had a certain strategy, stages. At what stage you will even talk about freedom. So when Mahatma Gandhi came here, he was flabbergasted at the complexity of the society. Today you have a far more understandable society, leadership, law, constitution, court, media, language, interaction, travel. You have everything. At that time there was nothing. So Mahatma Gandhi didn't know what to do. So he began talking to people who have studied this society for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and he met Gokhale, Gopal Krishna Gokhale. He told him that, of course, all of us are trying to understand India. For the first time, we are forced to think of not the concept India, but functioning India. We always knew the concept of India. The concept of India was defined by its rivers, its mountains, its Punya Kshetras. This is how we have been living as a society. Now we have to understand the functioning of the Indian society. And we are all trying to do it, but I must tell you, if you really want to do something and to work for India, you must take a travel across the country. And he even planned how he has to travel, and he made all his logistics, and he said, you travel for 1 year, but never utter one word. You keep observing, you keep learning, and then you will complete your doctorate by the time you complete this 1 year as to what India is. And that seminal advice changed Mahatma Gandhi completely. I'll tell you where he started. Because these are all things that are needed, because these are not taught, these are not read. The material is available in plenty on internet. Nobody even reads it. Because everybody is hooked to this damn computer and television. We don't even read newspapers. So in a society in which reading comes down so rapidly, illiteracy will only come up. We are ruled by illiterate scholars, illiterate media, illiterate educational institutions, illiterate leaders, illiterate IAS officers. So Mahatma Gandhi, when he studied the society, he converted the entire society into an open-air university. And then when he came to Madurai, he changed his dress. He said, if I have to communicate with the people of India, I cannot communicate in the way the British communicates. I have to first discard their dress so that the people will think I am different. Can you imagine a Mahatma Gandhi in full suit? Conquering India. In fact, Cho Ramaswamy used to say, in a very sarcastic language, he undressed himself and conquered India. He used to say, in a knuckle way, as we used to say. You know how he started his study? In Baroda, in Surat, he was put on a chariot with 6 horses, and Gandhiji was moving. And all tall people, respected people in the society were all coming by his side. After some time, people removed the horses and began pulling the chariot himself. But in Mahatma Gandhi's mind, he felt this is not the crowd with which I should move. Then he is invited for a dinner. All the top people came. He comes to Ahmedabad. Same thing happens. He comes to Bombay. Tatas come, Birlas come. All tall people come. But in his mind, there is a lurking fear that he should not be consumed by this group. These are all written, These are all written pieces of evidence is available. People like Mahadev Desai have written it. And then after he takes the travel across the country, he takes a completely different route. So Dharampal told me that you need not do what Mahatma Gandhi did, but you have to do something different to understand the entrepreneurial potential of India, business potential of India, the integrity of the Indian society to do business in its own way, its innovativeness, its relationship-based approach, and its community-based approach. All these are social capital of India on which you have to make a study. There is no book available, there is no research available, there is no education available, media will not publish it. You have to do it yourself. This is the advice he gave me in the year 1991, if I remember right, 92. Then I started traveling across the country. Something very different emerged before me, which you will not get in the newspapers, which you will not get in the government reports, which you will not get in the universities or MBA study courses. When I went to Ludhiana, I was surprised and stunned that everywhere in that situation where everybody was retrenching people, labor needed, we want workers. Everywhere I saw these billboards. I asked them, what is happening here? 5 lakh people were coming from Bihar for employment. Cluttered roads, what is happening? They have established one of the most admirable machine tool capacity that was producing the largest number of cycles in the world, and then became improving into motorcycle manufacturers, and they were manufacturing cycle spare parts for all the multinational cycle manufacturing companies in the world. I said, how did this happen? Then they said this all happened because of a community called Ramgarhia community. Here the traditional artisans, they understood all this and began re-engineering, replicating, and that established a huge machine tool factory. So much so that if they go to a factory and see a machine, they can make it. So in the German factories, most of the machine tool factories, these turbaned Ramgarhias are banned for entry. And then, of course, there was such an educative 3 days where I stayed at the time. Then the air marshals told, sir, whatever parts we want, which the defense ministry will not sanction for us because there is no foreign exchange or anything, including for the vacuum pressured anti-aircraft gun, the defense ministry will not give us money. See, we used to go to the Ramgarhias, can you make this part? Then the Ramgarhias will say, sir, can we remove this and take to our place? We have to look at it. Then, no, you have to come because there are defense rules which I cannot part with any equipment. The Ramgarhias used to come and stay there for 40-45 days, and then they will say they will produce a prototype which we will approve. Sir, you will not know if the 1965 war was won. It was because 250 anti-aircraft guns, vacuum pressure pushers were made by the Ramgarhias, and that is why we shot down nearly 60 saber jets. I mean, it's completely flummoxed to me as to what is happening in this country. No one knows about Ramgarhias, the natural engineers, and they have established woolen factories, they have established textile factories. This is how my study started. You will not find this in Economic Times. This will not find it in Business Standard. You will not find it in government reports. So, then I went to Ludhiana, then I went to Batala, then I went to Amritsar, then I went to Rajkot. Every place revealed something so totally different, so unknown, made me so illiterate, so small, that as a person who has been studying the economy of India for 20 years, I did not know all this. And I will not know anything but for the fact that Dharampal told me to take a travel across the country. That is how the Swadeshi Jagran Manch, which made all this tour possible and made the local connections. I'll tell you what happened in Jalandhar. In Jalandhar, I went to a place where I stayed in an RSS local president's house. He said, sir, will you visit my factory? He was doing cricket bat manufacturing, willow manufacturing. Sir, I have very little time. No, I will make all arrangements so that you have to go only this way. When I went there, he said, sir, I am the only source for the Australian Cricket Association, Australian Cricket Control Board. They buy all their bats only from me. We have an international standard of manufacturing. It's a factory like this, and there was one fellow sitting and doing willow. Sir, you look at that, he's a carpenter, and he's a master in willow making. And he may make 100 willows a day. One day he say, I am not in a mood, he may make 10 willows, he may not come. See the Maruti car standing outside. Maruti car was not an ordinary man's possession at that time. See the Maruti car, he will come in the Maruti car, make the willow and go. He is not my employee, he is my partner. Everybody here share the revenue. Nobody is an employer or employee. There are 70 workers who share the proceeds and I take the balance. I was stunned. How many people know from Jalandhar in the year 1992, a carpenter was manufacturing bat for Australian Cricket Control Board. This is how my learning started. Then when I completed all this sort of study in about 22 industrial clusters, then I told my colleagues, Professor Kanazabapati and Muralidharan and Rajalakshmi and who's the other fifth person? No, this Sangha Pracharak. Sundaram is a chartered accountant. Another. So we 6 persons decided that we will travel across the country. In fact, to many places I could not go, I sent them. And the result that came was identical in all places. The local entrepreneurships, the local communities sharing their resources. Because of mutual trust, have been able to set up industrial complexes which the government could not do. And we found Coimbatore was one of the premier industrial clusters set up by the trust levels which was very high in communities. This trust cannot be created by contracts. This is a trust which does not rely on contracts. It's on word of mouth. And that trust is difficult to build, and that is a social capital. In fact, the idea of social capital was recognized in the year 1994 when Francis Fukuyama wrote about the Asian economies, that Asian economies have social capital based on relations. Western people try to copy the social capital by contracts, by forming associations. Here association is a product of relationship. Their associations create relationship. These are two different dimensions which the educational institutions must study. There is a pre-existing relationship which creates an articles of association and memorandum of association here. The memorandum of association, articles of association do not create the relationships as in the West, because they are individualism based societies. We are families, we are communities, we know each other. And this was revealed in Karur. In Karur, there are two big banks, Lakshmi Vilas Bank and Karur Vaisya Bank. How many of you have studied from Coimbatore? How is it that in a small place, at that time the population was about 6-7 lakhs. How is it that a small place with 6-7 lakhs population could get up two large banks? Has any management institute in Coimbatore attempted to study this? Or the government of Tamil Nadu? Or the University of Madras or any other university? It is all there. Nobody is bothered about how this development took place. But what is the potentiality of this place? How did the people of that place know so much about finance? How did they have the vision to set up a bank? So I requested Professor Kanasabapati to do a study through the PhD Institute of Management of Financing model in Karur. And we found with the two large banks and 54 branches of nationalized banks, their share of lending to business in Karur was only 1/3 of the total lending that takes place. The rest of the lending takes place through local financiers. Then we personally attended when they invited me to Karur Financiers Association meeting. Then when they submitted the report, how do they process? How do they appraise loans? This is all based on personal this thing. If one fellow had cheated anyone, that man's identity will be known to everyone. So the appraisal was done by the society, the committee, the community. And so nobody could cheat. And they had clearly 18% to 24% was the loan. And most of them borrowed from the banks and lent. And the banks were very happy to lend because they didn't have to collect the money. These fellows will collect the money and give. When we went everywhere, a completely different local flavor, local culture, local methods, local entrepreneurship, local leadership. See how Sivakasi developed. Two Nadars went to Calcutta. One Iron Nadar, another I forget his name. Shanmunada. They learnt how to manufacture matchsticks. You know, they came and called the entire community and said, this is how we can manufacture matchsticks. Anyone who wants to do it, you do it. This is leadership. There was no IPR rights. That is why when we went to study this phenomenon, we found that in Atur and Kovilpatti, there were 10,000 matchstick manufacturers at the family level. And 90% of them are the so-called scheduled caste. And when we went and asked them, what do you feel? Sir, we are very happy. And nobody treats us as untouchable because we are business people. And they have bank accounts, they engage autos, and they dispatch goods, they do billing. Of course, some of them, not all of them do billing. And we found 10,000 entrepreneurs had been produced by some 50, 60 people who do the marketing brand. This did not happen. Professor Kanasabha made excellent study about diamond manufacturing, diamond cutting in India. 25 years back, if anybody had gone to Surat, it was an open slum. It was an open defecation society. And in that, people used to come, some 5 to 10 lakh people used to come from nearby villages with their cattle, because there was no water. And so they used to muddy the whole place, and the government couldn't do anything, they couldn't stop. Everybody thought, no, this has to be stopped, and you have to even use force. Which government will be able to use force when 10 lakh people come? Nothing happened. But it's keeping on happening. You know what happened? Those people who came, they were never fools. They learnt diamond cutting in Surat and went back to their villages. Now they don't come to Surat. 9 out of 10 diamonds cut in the world are cut in Saurashtra. We have become the diamond manufacturing country in the world. No university did it. No MBA institution did it. No industry association did it. The society did it. You must have heard about that Angadiyas. Have you heard the word Angadiyas? Especially students here. Have you heard the word Angadiyas? Then you don't know anything about India. Angadiyas are people who carry valuable goods, including cash, from one place to the other, whether it is gold or diamond or cash or important sensitive materials from one place to the other. These are Angadiyas. You know, the diamond is transported through the Angadiyas from Surat. It is imported from Bombay, brought to Surat, distributed to 500,000 villages, and then brought back after it is polished and cut, and it is exported. And the idea was suggested, the government of India had a policy, if you want to import raw diamonds, you have to pay duty. And then when you export, we will give you back the duty. Then 5 illiterate diamond exporters, and one of them was the most educated, he read the 5th standard. All these details are in Professor Kanasabha's book. Fortunately, at that time, the man who was the finance minister knew Gujarati. Otherwise, he could not have communicated. He told him, sir, why do you want to charge duty when the raw diamond comes and refund back the duty when we export? Why don't you create a system by which you will give us exemption from duty, and then when we export, you adjust it so that no cash passes, because we don't have the money to pay Then the advanced licensing was created on the basis of suggestion given by 5 illiterates. And these Angadiyas are so perfect because they are relation based. Everyone knows who is the Angadiya, and they all go by motorcycle. If it is very valuable, they may go by a car. So this distribution was taking place. 2 years back, there was a news item in the Times of India that there was a $250 million diamond heist in Amsterdam. I will come to Amsterdam later. Amsterdam is the diamond capital of the world. And it is all protected on all sides, and electronic supervision, CCTV camera, everything. But the thieves knocked out $250 million worth of diamonds. So the Times of India wrote, see what is happening in Surat. Every day, thousands of Angadiyas take the diamonds from one corner to the other and bring it back. Not a single piece of diamond was lost. This is social capital. When I spoke to the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, I asked them, did you study this model? How India became the largest diamond cutting center in the world. No one studied. So the society of India was never studied by the establishment India, educated India, media India, and of course the government is not least interested in doing it. Amsterdam, Antwerp. I mentioned the wrong name, professor corrected me. Because when we speak in too many fora on too many subjects, you used to get confused. It is not only one political leader who gets confused, I also get confused. So in Antwerp, the most respected people are Indians. You know why? We never sack people. We are the only society where to sack a person means to sack a family. What will happen to that? All of you business people have underwent this problem. You have never said, I have nothing to do with him, let him go home. I don't think it is in the Indian blood. So we have established a tradition, whether he is a contractor, whether he is an employee, whether he is a manager, whether he is a professional, we engage them for life. And they are so honest and straightforward. And so we have taken over. This diamond trade was in the hands of the Jews in 1990s. You know what's the position now? Out of $25 billion diamond trade, 16 to 18 billion is in the hands of Gujaratis today. And you read Professor Kanaka Sabapathi's book, 5 of the largest exporters of diamonds are not qualified up to school final. If they had qualified up to school final, then they would not have entered into diamond trade, they would have become clerks. In fact, Armstrong Palaniswamy is one of the exporters, knitwear exporters in Tirupur. So when we were talking to him, how did you establish business, sir? I tried my level best, I could not pass PUC examination, then I entered into business. I said, if you had entered into, if you had passed the PUC examination, who would have established this industry and who would have employed 300 people? You would have become one of the employees. And we found in all our studies of industrial clusters, there are 2,800 artisan clusters in India. 2,800. This is a universal study. This is all in Professor Kanaka. In fact, I requested Professor Kanaka Sabapathy to write a book, because if a chartered accountant writes a book, nobody will look at it. Professor Kanaka Sabapathy must write the book. So he put together all these experiences and wrote one of the finest books, original books, which is not available outside his book, information. And in that book he has culled out and put all the information. So, we have a global level presence, local level presence, middle level presence, established by people who had not entered college. In fact, if they had entered college and if they had come out first, because they are bright people, they would have come out first. They are offered 12 lakh salary. Why should I establish business and suffer? Somebody is going to give salary, I'll be happy. So in India, we have a situation where we have uneducated employers and educated employees. We produce unemployable graduates. We have engineers who will not touch the machine, who will not dirty their hands. And every engineer wants to become an IT professional sitting before a computer. Why are you needed for computer? In fact, L&T chairman A.M. Naik cried to me, sir, we need civil engineers in thousands. But all my civil engineers whom I need for construction work in Africa, in other places, are sitting before computer in L&T Infotech. I mean, what a waste of talent. How misdirected our national resources are. We should ban engineers of other faculties from entering IT profession. If a government can do it, it is a courageous government. They should not go to management studies. Management studies, I am telling you, there may be MBA students. In Germany, there is no management institute. In Japan, there is no management institute. They are among the best managed economies in the world. It is the American model we follow. We need to train managers, we need to train peons, we need to train attendants, we need to train clerks, we need to... These are all things which should be left to the society and to educational institutions. So we have a completely cluttered mind, a confused society, a confused media, a confused administration. I am fighting with it every day for the last 25 years. People cannot, once you suggest something, the first thing they will say is, sir, this is not possible. I have never come across a civil servant who says, sir, I will look into it. Sir, it doesn't appear to be possible. Anyhow, you have come, let me see. This mentality has grown from the time of the British because the British had taught the civil servants to deny Indians what they need. And the Indians also do the same thing vis-a-vis Indians today. That is why when Kanasa Babadi was given the responsibility to organize the seminars, we never thought the seminars would succeed because we were not putting the IAS officers or the top people, but we were saying the salt manufacturers in Thoothukudi will tell about the problems of salt manufacturing to IAS officers, to business people, to professors, to educational institutions. We thought nobody is going to come. As Professor Kanasa Babadi said, the empirical understanding is so important. Theoretical thing is such a waste unless it is based on studies. Each seminar was so overcrowded. Even these IAS officers and business executives and students, they wanted to know what is happening on the ground. Many of you may not have known about a machine manufacturer in Tirupur. Sundaram is his name. In fact, when we went and saw the machine he has made, the finish of the machine was like the finish of cell phone. How did he do it? This factory was not larger than this. And that is a particular machine which stretches the compacting machine. And he told me he was educated up to 5th standard. And he said, sir, even when I used to play with clay, I always used to manufacture machines. My idea, my goal in life was to manufacture machines. Then he said, sir, I saw this compacting machine, I wanted to manufacture it. He had manufactured 90 compacting machines, exported it to Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, and then our people began buying it. And he said, sir, I have employed a very educated person as sales manager, and he was educated up to PUC. He said, you could speak in English. What I am saying is, I wrote a cover page story in Indian Express and in Tughlaq and Dinamani about Sundaram and asked many important institutions to invite him to lecture. It is he who will teach you what is business, what's innovation. This is the gap between education and society. This is the gap between theory and practice. And this I have been seeing for 25 years and suffering. And I don't find many takers in the media or in the administration. Only one prime minister came and I went, of course, Atal Bihari Vajpayee understood the cluster idea. When we went and made a presentation before the cluster, he said, "Isko to karna hi hai. We have to do it." And then he ordered the cluster policy. Nearly, I don't know how many clusters. To my knowledge, I had tracked up to 350 industrial clusters. And each cluster, they give a certain sum to develop its infrastructure. And that is why I think Tirupur also got some grant. I don't know whether Coimbatore got it or not, because Coimbatore is larger than a cluster now, because it has acquired a corporate character. So all this cluster policy was designed by Atal Bihari Vajpayee government on the basis of the studies which we had made. As Professor Kanagada Swabadi said, when Narendra Modi called us to do the kite study, you know why he wanted us to do it? Kite manufacturing is done by the Muslims and the kite flying is done by the Hindus, because the Muslims do not celebrate Sankranti and they manufacture the kite. The Hindus celebrate the Sankranti and so they display. And you cannot see, it is not like your kite and my kite. Each kite is like a helicopter. You know, it's all kinds of, as if a person can fly along with it. So when we went and studied, 5 of us or 6 of us, including Rajalakshmi from Chennai, we all went to study this. And you know, we found that this business could expand into a several thousand crore business. And this is how it has to be done. I said, you come. He came out with a coffee table book, nothing else. All that Narendra Modi did was to make us do a coffee table book and circulated it all over the world, wherever Gujaratis are. In 3 years, the turnover went up by 10 times, from 35 crores to 350 crores, and that lifted the standard of living of all these people. And you know, they wanted this bamboo parts are needed to do this, and that is to be procured from Assam, and there are so many restrictions. And then we connected how supply chain could be established and their cost could lower. They did not know all this. We have to do it. What is our educational institution for? We do nothing. In practical terms, we get marks and study and come out. That's not knowledge. That's memory testing. So we need to do something more. Each educational institution has to become innovative. It cannot become innovative as to what's happening elsewhere. In fact, where did we test this? What are we going to do? They were studying how NASDAQ went up and down. Which is the institution? Trichy. Somewhere. Bharadasan Institute of Management. Sir, when we went there, the director told, sir, all our employees, all our students have been placed. Tomorrow McKinsey's are going to come, and we are saying that we are proudly going to say that there is no one else available to you, all have been placed. Then I asked, how many people are getting placement? Sir, we have a capacity of 60. All the 60 students of the MBA who are going to write the examination in March have got placed in December. That means your examination is not needed. Why do you want to hold examination for them? They have already been selected. Your course is not needed. Then I asked him, from how many applications you choose the 60 people? Sir, we choose from 10,000 applications, we choose 60 people. Then why do you hold examinations for them? They are the best brain. And you send them to jobs. Who will give jobs for the 9,940 people? This lecture I made in that institution, in which they had no answer. The best people, you get them the best employment. What about the rest who need employment? There is a catch in the Indian education system. This is not the case in Japan. It's not the case in Germany. In Japan and Germany, if somebody is found competent in a factory run by A.V. Vardarajan, and if he certifies that this man has this kind of competence, he will be given degree. It is based on the knowledge, actual knowledge the man has, not that he has read it in books. Our education system has to change. These are all big ideas. It's a small beginning, it can be done. And it will happen. It's happening already. It's not that it's not happening. When the Prime Minister took over, I went and told him, sir, I don't know whether you are going to listen to me. He has been a long-standing friend of mine, but that doesn't mean I am a big man. He can have a fellow chaiwala also as his friend. Huh? He was a tea seller, no? So some tea seller also could be his friend. So don't evaluate that I am a big man because I am his friend. But I know him for a long time. I told him that, can you do something? I made a presentation from 1992. Please, all you students, you go through the Economic Survey of India. It is giving employment figures in organized sector. Organized sector means public and private sector, government, everything put together. What is the organized sector employment in 1992 and 2014? You know, in this period, when globalization came, 500 lakh crores had come from outside India. And almost equal amount has come from, 120 lakh crores had come from outside India. And a huge amount of money had gone from the Indian banking system to organized industries. The employment increase in the organized sector, public and private sector put together, including the government, was just 12.8 lakhs, period. Then Modi asked me, Kaisa hum jinde hain? How have we survived? I said, I'll tell you, this is, you look at your National Economic Survey. National Economic Survey, no? Economics. No, the other one. No. That's once in 10 years which is done. There's also an economic survey. This is about employment, industry, entrepreneurship of the small scale sector. There are 128 million non-farming units. 58 million non-farming units which employ 128 million people. This is growing at the rate of 20% every year. This has only looked after your employment. But out of the total 12 lakh crores they need for employment in their business, employed in their business, only 5% is lent by banks. The rest of the money comes at a usurious rate of interest at 24% to 360%. Can you create a mechanism for that? That was how Mudra was born. Today, Mudra has funded 13 crore people. That is what has sustained India, not organized sector employment. These are all suggestions which have grown from bottom upwards. By study of the Indian society, it is not done by any IIT or IIM. In fact, when I delivered the lecture in IIT in the year 2010 about all this, what is the economic past of India, how we were an economic power till 1700, for 1700 years we were the leading economic engine in the world, which place we lost because of the colonial thrust. And I explained about my studies. It was in the Shailendra Mehta School of Management. Then all the students came and surrounded me and said, sir, we know nothing about these things. Can you teach these things? What is the use of these big buildings which doesn't teach us what India is? Then for 4 years I taught this subject, Indian economic, business and financial models, for which Professor Kanagaswami's book was the prescribed textbook. I used to go for 5-6 weeks, 2 days a week, set apart for this and did the study. Of course, now the university, IIT itself is doing. So this thought has now entered the elite educational institutions. Why I am saying this is, Coimbatore has a very distinct advantage of being an industrial center as well as an educational center. But I find a complete dividing line, a wall between them. Tirupur is in crisis, but Tirupur educational institutions do not know why they are in crisis. They are studying about Nasdaq. They must study about Tirupur Banyan trade problems. Coimbatore educational institutions must be studying about the casting business, by textile business, by machine tool business. They know nothing. And these business people must be going and teaching in those institutions. They are sending their children and they are going to their business. The children feel what the father is doing is a rotten business and he must go to. This happening in Virudhunagar. In Virudhunagar, when they invited us, all the elderly people in the age group of 50 to 60 to 70, they said only one thing. Sir, none of our children want to do this trading business. They all want to be in IT, in Bombay, in London, everywhere. Sir, can you do something? Can you ask them to come back? Then we called about 50-60 people from all around and told them, Baba, this business is much better. Sir, how do we sell oil? How do we sell gingerly? How do we sell Malakai? What is it? You know, one family which has 30 or 50 different firms has a turnover of 3,000 crores in chili trade. It is a chili stock exchange, chili exchange. But no one knows about it. Everybody is moving from one place to the other. And I'm going to read out to you one young boy. His name is Shri. Please, students, make use of this and read about him in the economic, in the Times of India today. I know him because 5 years back he approached me, sir, you must become my mentor. I said, you are such an evolved person, you don't need a mentor. Sir, I do need a mentor, you become my mentor. That's how I became his mentor. But I'm going to read out to you what he is heading a corporation called Zoho Corporation. He has not taken 1 rupee bank loan, not 1 rupee, no investment from outside. All the 100% shares of the company is owned by him. And his idea is not, and of course his turnover is close to about 3,000 crores, maybe 4,000 crores. And he says very close, very shortly he will have $1 billion turnover. He has offices in 25 countries. And he wears a bathroom slippers and go to office. He's called a maverick mind. Such a brilliant mind. His parents come from a very traditional Brahmin family. if you go to Chennai, in Maraimalnagar, there is a huge building of this shape. Have you seen it? It is like this. That building was bought by Zoho in the year when all the property prices were down. It was a 500 crore building was available at 280 crores and Zoho bought it. And he invited me and he takes the 10th standard students who have passed and gives them 2-year training in computer, in English, and employs them. He has very nearly cracked chip manufacturing. That is the news that has come today. Yeah, and he has virtually cracked the chip manufacturing, and in next 3 weeks he is going to announce it. And he says, I am not selling my shares to anyone because they will expect immediate return. We don't want any return. They are all working on very low salaries. And I told him, why are you opening your offices in Chennai and other places? Go to Tenkasi where land prices are low. After all, only you want office. There is electronic highway. Modi has connected the whole country with the electronics highway. Why do you want it? Then he said, now he is going to open an R&D center in his village. Small village houses. He is converting it into research centers. This is Indian. I want you to read 2 pages in Times of India today. Of course, it has come in the Hindu also, but in Times of India it has come out better. Just 2 pages. I will just try and read out this. And these are the people who should inspire us. It is not politicians. It is not, of course there are good politicians also. I am not blaming all. But we must understand, Zoho-backed team creates first Desi LTE chip. And he says, the key is the level of integration we have achieved with the chip, given how crucial it is in semiconductors, and his whole area of study is data security, about which the whole world is bothered. And he has produced a data security which cannot be broken by Americans. That is the news. This he has done it here. This he has done it in Tenkasi. But do we study about him in our schools, business schools? And he has given an interview. This is at page, Times of India doesn't print the page prominently. It is in Times Business page. And in the next page, not just make in India, but research and design in India. I'll just read out the most quotable part of what he says. Every high-value R&D job we create, there are 10 or 20 other low-value additional jobs created. And that is my passion. And that is what we at Zoho are trying to do. Our projects are targeted at creating high-value products using our talent. To bring about this change, we need time and patience. This is the key reason we don't want outside capital, because outside capital needs immediate returns. If you bring foreign investors, they will wait for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Afterwards, they are not going to wait. In 3 years, this is not going to be done. It will need 5 years. It will need 10 years. While these changes, we need to wait for 8 to 10 years. I'll tell you what is his life ambition. He told me, I want to beat Bill Gates. And I will tell you he will do it. He is just in his 40s. Why I am saying this is, these are all homegrown geniuses. Now only the media has begun looking at him. We have such potentiality from Sundaram in Tripur, who manufacture the compacting machine, to Sridhar Vembu, who is manufacturing chip. for which the China has to steal technology from America. And he has established one of the most secretive processing center for this purpose. In 3 weeks, he is going to come out with a disclosure which may astound the world. Why I am saying this is, we need to think that we are a great civilization. You are first thought your grandfather, as Swami Vivekananda said, your father was an idiot, your great-grandfather was a fool, and forefathers were in the neighborhood of brutes. This is what we have been taught, we believe it, because it is said in English. The English-educated Indian has been a concealed anti-Indian. I am telling you, because I move with that group. And we need to exorcise our mind about it. We need to know English. We need to master English. We should not allow English to be English to master us. We need this kind of, because we are no more a pushover. We now sit in the head table of the world nations. We are no more rule acceptors. We are among the rule setters. But our education system, our public discourse, our media, our leadership has not trained people to rise to the level where when we meet people from outside, we treat them as equals. In fact, one of my friends, Shiva Shankaran, used to say, if you have to get out of this inferiority complex, sir, you have to get some 50,000 Englishmen who are cobblers and ask them to clean shoes in airports, in bus stands and railway stations. So then we will know the British will clean shoes also. So one of my friends said, if you do it, one fellow will go and put the shoe in the puja room and say it is cleaned by an Englishman. But this is the kind of inferiority complex you suffer from. We have to get out of this complex. You know, I am a chartered accountant. The Indian mind is so fertile, it can understand any subject. Specialization for Indian is foolish. Because philosophically it has grown so much. It can understand any subject. You know, my advice is sought for by my client is not accountancy or finance. It is about law. I have headed many legal conferences in the world where within 15 or 20 minutes, all these people will say, sir, what do you think about this class? You approve it. This is the Indian mind. We don't know about it. What Professor Kanasababadi and people are attempting to do about Coimbatore is a seminal work. Now somebody wants to know about Coimbatore. What material you have got to present to them? A foreign investor comes. He wants to know about you. Here is everything. It contains everything. You want to tell the government, Coimbatore. In fact, when I began the brand ambassador for Codissia. From 1998, I have been a brand ambassador for Codissia. But don't think all the brand ambassadors are paid. I am not a paid brand ambassador. I could say with pride, see what these people have done. When the Prime Minister came there, I showed him at the time, of course, this has become much bigger now. I told him, see this trade fair complex. Atalji, can you find even CII, which is the highest income earning industrial body in India, conceiving something like this, thinking something like this? This requires a vision. And it is there. In Coimbatore is probably one of the most innovative centers in the world. You know the grinder? You have seen the traditional grinder? The traditional grinder, the bottom will remain stable and this will go round. Coimbatore reversed it. Amazing. So why I am saying this is, there is so much of talent. Mr. A.V. Varadarajan once showed me how to convert a tractor into, what is it? I don't know, because my knowledge of mechanical engineering is so poor. Earth moving equipment. Normal tractor, which TAFE sells, that was converted into an earth moving equipment by adding weight to the tractor. Very original thought. Very original innovation. But this is not what we celebrate in our educational institutions. Look at when I went to Kerala, they said, sir, we don't know, how do we set up? I said, you are sending terrorists to Coimbatore. Please, why don't you send your students? Let them go and study Coimbatore, Coimbatore and Tirupur. They will know how to do business. Education is what you experience, not what you read. In those days, textbooks are important. It has become unnecessary today with the computer giving you all the information, Google opening you to all the information that is available, including the latest. It's not that all the information are useful, but any information that you want is needed, is there. Today you need experience, you need understanding, you need to work with your hand, you need to psychologically attune yourself to it. You must develop risk-bearing tendencies. Then Coimbatore will flourish. It will become an example, which is already. It can become a very major example. Today, Coimbatore is being discussed in policy-making circles in India. That is the work 3 generations have done. The next generation has to take it forward even more. You have the educational infrastructure, you have an industrial infrastructure, you have a community relationship. You have to present all this. One of the first major efforts that you have taken up is the bringing out of these volumes. And you must ensure that it reaches some of the important policy makers. Not many will read, but at least they know something is there. 3 volumes Coimbatore has done. Nobody may even read it. 3 volumes, sir. They came and gave it to me yesterday. The industry secretary, the finance secretary, the chief minister, the governor. You must go and give it to everybody. The media must flash the photographs. Everything is packaging today. You have to package Coimbatore. So, you have a job to do. Yes. It is not just printing and keeping it in our library, but to see that it is widely distributed. So, I am trying to shake your mind. You have got to forget the kind of illiterate education, illiterate understanding of India you have been undergoing for so long. In fact, one of the reasons why I was put in the RBI board is to shake the mentality there. In fact, the entire Western media abused me. I had to send a legal notice to the Economist magazine. Said, legal notice to the Economist magazine? Such a respected magazine. Even sending legal notice to Economist is something very big. I mean, I cannot understand. Of course, they have to answer. I will go to court. Because once they see someone who thinks differently from them, you have to finish him. Nothing short, you have to destroy the man. This is the effort of the West. They will never allow anyone who is rising in spite of their permission. We are rising, we will rise. Asia is rising, it will continue to rise. West will decline, it will continue to decline. It's because its achievement is disproportionate to its true worth. It achieved it because of physical might, army, technology. It is quite disproportionate to its true worth. I am telling you a simple thing. China invented the explosive 2,500 years ago. They never used it for military purposes. The moment West invented the explosive, it used it only for military purposes. This is the difference between two cultures. The world's future is not going to be decided by wars. It is going to be decided by performance in business. And we are there. We will continue to be there. I am happy that Coimbatore gave me an opportunity to share these thoughts. Don't forget to read these 2 pages in the Times of India. Thank you very much.